Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great day out there. Shout yourselves out in the comment section as y'all are coming in. We're going to get started in one moment. As y'all are coming in, shout yourselves out. Get yourself a comfortable seat. Turn your volume up. Turn off all distractions. Tell the kids to be quiet. All right, we're going to get started in a moment. I'm put my number to my daily motivation text here in the comment section just to make sure all y'all who are not yet getting my daily motivation, y'all know where to get it. I'll mention this again before it's over. Shout out to Pittsburgh. As y'all are coming in, shout yourselves out. We're going to get started in one moment. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year pro athlete, author of 33 books. I've done 4 TED Talks as well. I created this whole brand called Work on Your Game, where what we do here is real simple. We take the mental tools to help athletes get to the top 1% in the sports world, and we translate those tools over to the business world to help professionals like yourselves perform at a higher level, do so consistently, and as a result, you're going to make more money. So what I want to talk about here in today's live, and I might start doing these on a regular basis. I'm trying to just figure out schedule-wise. We try different things out schedule-wise to see what works, see what we can do that's duplicatable, because I'm always looking for a process. I'm a big process guy, big process and streamlining and systems guy. So I'm always looking for a process. I don't like doing things randomly. So what I want to talk about here today, speaking of such, is some unconventional ways you can make yourself stand out. So any of you who is looking to stand out in whatever it is that you do, I don't care if you're playing a sport, if you are running a business, if you are an influencer or creator, if you got an OnlyFans, if you work at Pizza Hut, if you are a school teacher, if you're a librarian, if you are just trying to find a job and you don't even know what you want to do with your life right now. How do you make yourself stand out? Now, there are some things that you may hear other people tell you about standing out, like pound social media, just post to social media a whole bunch, or be so good that they can't ignore you. There's a whole book about that, and people talk about that. And these are not necessarily bad things or wrong things. But what I'm going to share with you are some unconventional approaches to how to stand out. Now, what I will tell you here up front is everything I'm about to tell you here, I'm going to detail this in an episode of my podcast. I have a podcast called Work on Your Game. It comes out for free every single day. It's called Work on Your Game. So just look it up. You can just go off the title of this book right here, Work on Your Game. That's the name of my podcast. Comes out every single day, free of charge. Just look it up on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, all your favorite podcasting apps. But I'm going to lay it all out for you here today in a shorter form. And if you want to get this in the full detail, listen to my podcast. It comes out every single day, free of charge. As of today, we have how many episodes we got on my podcast? Just to tell y'all, today's episode was number 2,609. So 2,609 episodes of my podcast every single day since 2016. That's how many days it's been. So you want to make sure you are subscribed to that show and make sure you're getting my daily motivation text. I send that text out every single day for free. So make sure you text me at this number that I'm going to put in the chat right now. And make sure you text me at that number so you get my daily motivation every day for free. Now, let's get into it. How do you make yourself stand out? I'm going to tell you 3 things to do that will make you stand out in any group, any crowd, anything you're doing. Here's number 1. Master the basics and the fundamentals. Number 1 thing you can do to stand out in any place you go is find out what the basics and the fundamentals are of that thing, and then master the basics and the fundamentals. Let me help you understand this. I'm going to give you some examples so you know that I'm not lying to you. The most successful people at anything that you ever seen are those who have mastered the basics and the fundamentals. And on top of that, they build like the fancy stuff that people make highlight reels about and everybody wants to talk about and everybody gets all excited. People usually get all excited about the fancy stuff, right? But the fancy stuff is built upon the foundation of the basics and the fundamentals. So if any of you ever want to know the secret to success, whatever that, the secret, quote unquote, to success, ain't no secret. The secret is that the basics and the fundamentals are the key to being great at what you do. And the actual secret is that most people are too lazy, too undisciplined, and too unprofessional to actually stick to the basics and the fundamentals long enough to master them. That's why this is a way that you can stand out, because you're going to be doing the opposite of what most people do. Mastering the basics and the fundamentals is the hallmark of a professional, is the hallmark of somebody who is disciplined, is the hallmark of somebody who is serious about what they're doing. And I want you to look around. Think about somebody like Tom Brady. Now, Tom Brady, depending on your perspective, He might be the greatest football player of all time, or one of the best, let's say one of the top 10 NFL players of all time, maybe top 20 at least of all time. Now, here's something that I saw about Tom Brady. There was a documentary that they did on him, like a Facebook documentary, Tom versus Time. This is probably like 5 years ago. It was right after he won the last Super Bowl he won with the New England Patriots before he went to Tampa Bay. And they had just won the Super Bowl. So he was in the offseason after winning that championship, whatever number that was, number 5, number 6, whatever. Tom Brady flew from New England, where he was living, to California and hired a coach, a trainer, like a football quarterback coach. And the quarterback coach was coaching Tom Brady on his throwing technique. I got a pause connection there. He was coaching Tom Brady on his throwing technique the summer after he had just won his 6th NFL Super Bowl. This dude hired a coach, paid this coach, flew across the country to be coached on how to throw a football after he had just won the Super Bowl for the 6th time. That's mastery of the basics and the fundamentals. And he was still committed to the basics and the fundamentals as he was still working on them, willing to put in the time, the travel, and the money to get coached on this stuff after he was already established as the best player there is. That's mastery of the fundamentals. Michael Jordan, master of the fundamentals. All right, he talked about it himself. Like when he played at North Carolina, his coach was a guy by the name of Dean Smith. Dean Smith has passed away now, but Dean Smith was all about the fundamentals and the basics. Michael Jordan was a starter as a freshman at North Carolina, not because he could jump high in the air and score a whole bunch of points. He was a starter as a freshman because of his ability to help the team on defense, not his ability to score points. A lot of people don't know that. Michael Jordan was all about the basics and the fundamentals, and Dean Smith drilled the basics and the fundamentals. John Wooden, who's a legendary coach from UCLA, he has also passed several years ago. He won 10 championships in the span of, it was either 11 or 12 years. He won 10 championships at UCLA. And if you know anything about college sports, you know that college sports is all about recruiting. So John Wooden simply had the best players. They had the most talent, and he was a good coach, but they had the best players. That's why they were dominating and winning so much. You know what John Wooden would teach his players? If you came to play at UCLA back then, he had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who's one of the greatest players of all time. He had Bill Walton, who was the best player in college ball at that time, and many other guys who were the best players in the nation all come play for him at UCLA. You know what John Wooden would teach his players when you first came to UCLA back then in the 60s and the 70s? The first thing he would teach them when you were the best player in the country to come play for him, he would teach you how to put on your socks and how to tie your sneakers so that you didn't get blisters on your feet when you were playing basketball. Fundamentals, basics. Phil Jackson, y'all know him, right? He was the coach of the Chicago Bulls when Jordan and Pippen were playing for the Bulls. He coached Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal for the LA Lakers. You know what Phil Jackson used to coach players on in training camp? Phil Jackson will coach players in training camp on how to throw a proper pass, how to throw a chest pass, how to throw a bounce pass, how to throw a post-entry pass. These are the best players in the world. And the top 1% of college players play in the NBA. This is who Phil Jackson is coaching. He's teaching them how to pass the ball. He's teaching them how to throw a pass, not that mindset of passing, but how to actually throw the ball to a teammate. And can you imagine telling Kobe Bryant, hey, Kobe, here's how you throw the ball to Shaquille O'Neal. Hey, Shaq, here's how you throw the ball to Kobe. Here, Mike, here's how you pass the ball to Scottie Pippen. These are the fundamentals. And Star Bell, yes, you're correct. And these people drilled the fundamentals. Michael Jordan drilled the fundamentals over and over and over again, practicing the same moves over and over again to make sure his footwork was right to get his shots off. Kobe, another guy who drilled in the fundamentals. If you read any books about Kobe, there was one that I read. I read several books about Kobe, not books by Kobe, but books about Kobe. And this one that was written about him, I forget which one it was. I read so many. But there was one where one of the trainers for the Lakers, they created this conditioning program that they would give to all the players to use during the season. And the funny thing is the trainer who made this program, he would give it to every player on the Lakers during the season, do this conditioning program, keep conditioning up during the season. And he said the program was designed to be so difficult that no player could keep up with the program, that you couldn't actually do it, that you would come to him and be like, hey, I'm trying to keep up with this program, but it's so daunting, I can't actually do it. He said in all his years coaching the Lakers, Kobe was the only player who actually kept up with the entire program and actually did the whole program because he was focused. And this is a conditioning program. This is not a how to do a crossover dribble and get a highlight reel dunk program. This is a conditioning program. During the season, he had Kobe doing this program, and Kobe is the only player he ever coached, he said, or trained, who was able to keep up with the whole program. If you look at a guy like Tim Grover, he's written a couple books He trained Kobe. He trained Kobe and Michael Jordan, and he's built his whole career off of, hey, I trained Kobe and Michael Jordan. And if you listen to what he says, a lot of what he talks about is mindset, but when it comes to the actual application, a lot of what those guys was about was fundamentals, the footworks, the working on things specifically every single day, the footworks, the technique. He would work with Kobe, and they would just shoot 1,000 jump shots from the same spot over and over and over and over again. I remember Kobe early in his career. This is probably maybe like the second year when they won the three championships in a row, him and Shaq. And it was a year where Kobe's jump shot had gotten a whole lot better. And I remember I was watching the game on TV, and the announcers were talking about it. And they said they're talking to Kobe, and he was like, yeah, Kobe, how'd you get your jump shot? So how'd you get your jump shot so good over the offseason? Kobe said, well, it was 2,000 jump shots a day. And the announcer was like, oh, that's cool, man. That's cool that you worked on your game so much that you took 2,000 jump shots a day. And Kobe said, no. I didn't take 2,000 jump shots a day. I made 2,000 jump shots a day. And the whole point is he was focused on the fundamentals and getting so dialed in on his fundamentals of his skills. That's how he got so good. If any of you ever read any books about or watched the documentaries on, the books are better, actually. So any of you watch the documentary about these guys, the books are a lot better than documentaries because they give a lot more detail. And they're much better research than the TV shows. Tiger Woods' dad taught him how to golf. And his dad drilled into him what? The basics, the fundamentals. Now, was Tiger a very talented golfer? Of course. But it was the basics and the fundamentals that made him amazing. So any player you notice who is really great at what they do is because they mastered the basics and the fundamentals. And then on top of that, they build all the extra stuff. So any of you follow tennis, you look at guys like Djokovic or Federer back then, the best tennis players, Serena Williams, they master the fundamentals. And then on top of that, they build all the extra stuff. Tiger Woods, master of the fundamentals of what he did. You look at in soccer, I don't follow soccer at all, but you look at a guy like Messi, great at the fundamentals of the game, and then you add the talent on top of it. This is the way it works. What's going on, Dr. Tootie? I appreciate you. So number one, master the basics and the fundamentals. You want to stand out from the crowd, master the basics. Most people are not disciplined enough and they are not professional enough to master the basics, and that's why you can stand out by doing this. Number two, you want to stand out from the crowd. Be consistent. Consistency is the hallmark of the professional. The professional is consistent. If you haven't read this book right here, called The Third Day, The Decision That Separates the Pros from the Amateurs. You can get this book for free by going to thirddaybook.com. Let me put the link right here for where you can get that book. If you go to that link right there, you can get this book for free. This book is all about how do you show up consistently and give your best effort when you least feel like it. And consistency, understand, everybody, is a result of not willpower. Consistency is a result of structure. When you put the right structure in place, that's where consistency comes from. So consistency helps you stand out from the crowd simply because most people are not consistent. Most people will do something for a little while, for as long as it's exciting to them. Then as soon as it's not exciting anymore, they stop doing it. They'll do it for as long as it's working, quote unquote, whatever working means. Then as soon as it's not, quote unquote, working anymore, they stop doing it. This is how most people live their whole lives. This is how most people go through their entire business careers. They only do things for as long as it's exciting or it's getting them the results that they want. And as soon as it's not working the way they wanted to, not popping off the way they wanted to, they stop doing it. All right. This is the reason why many people never get to the outcomes that they want to get to in life, because they are not consistent. They're inconsistent because they don't have the structure in place and they don't understand how this stuff works. So this will separate you from most people because most people don't have it. All right. So one of the ways to separate yourself from most other people is just see what they're doing. Don't do it. Do the opposite of that. Most people get attracted by what we call bright, shiny objects. You ever heard of that saying before? And it used to only be bright, shiny objects. But nowadays, we not only have that, now we got bright, shiny information. So it used to be bright, shiny objects only. You'd be distracted by an object. Now we get distracted by information. Now, oh, here's a new book. Here's a new course. Here's some new information. Here's a new app you got to sign up for, right? Everybody sign up for the new Instagram app today, Threads. All right, people get distracted by new information and new access. So it's not that there's anything wrong for signing up for things or getting new information if you need it or reading a book. I mean, I got a whole bunch of books right here behind me. Nothing wrong with reading books. Nothing wrong with getting courses. Nothing wrong with buying tickets to go to events and getting information. Nothing wrong with that stuff. But at the same time, you can't lose focus on what you need to be consistent at to make sure that your thing keeps running the way that it's supposed to run. So you need to know what that is. This is why you got to know what the basics and the fundamentals are of your line of work so that you know what to be consistent at. So you're not just being consistent for the sake of being consistent. You're being consistent at the things that actually help you get the outcome that you want. Give you another example. Think of somebody like Steph Curry. Steph Curry, I think most people would agree, is the best shooter in basketball right now. Some people would say the best shooter of all time. All right, now I'm back. Do you think there's any basketball player who practices their shot more than Steph Curry? You think there's any basketball player out there who practices shooting more than Steph Curry practices shooting? I would bet nobody. Now, think about that. Steph Curry's the best shooter, but he practices shooting more than anybody else. So is there any question or confusion as to why he's the best shooter? Because he's the most consistent at the practice. And before Steph Curry was named the best shooter, before people recognized him as the best shooter, who was the guy before that? It was a guy named Ray Allen. Y'all remember Ray Allen? He played for the Miami Heat, played for several teams, but his last stint was with the Miami Heat. They won the championship in 2013. Y'all remember that shot Ray Allen hit when Chris Bosh got the rebound off the LeBron miss? Ray Allen was backpedaling into the corner, caught the ball, backpedaled perfectly into the perfect spot to shoot the three-pointer in the corner and knock down that three-pointer. That was a legendary shot because of the stakes of the moment. And the thing is, any of you who's played basketball, you know that corner is like the smallest space that you could possibly have to get your feet in the right spot to shoot that three. Ray Allen stepped into it perfectly, as if he had done it a million times before and knocked down that three. And here's the reason why he was able to do it so perfectly. Because he had done it, maybe not a million times, but he had done it thousands of times before. How do I know this? Because after he made that shot, there were interviews and people would talk to Ray Allen and ask him about this. He said, I practice those kind of situations. I practice situations where I will be backpedaling into a shot, or I had to come from my left into a shot, or come from my right into a shot, or sprint forward into a shot. Or if I fell down, I would sit on the floor. Ray Allen actually said I would sit on the floor as if I got knocked down in the middle of the play. And then I had to get up, take 2 steps, get to the three-point line, catch the ball, and shoot it and make it. He would practice that kind of stuff because he knew that these kind of situations might happen one time, and he wanted to be ready for that one time that it happened. The best, any of you who plays golf, people who are great at putting in golf, what do? They practice it. All right, this is how you get good at stuff. Any of you who works in finance, the people who are best at finance are what? Those who have a clear framework for how they do what they do, and they stick to their principles no matter what's going on in the market. The people who are best at what they do are the most consistent at working out their process because they have a process, first of all, and then they stick to the process regardless of what's going on around them. This is how you get good at what you do. And this is how you stand out from everybody else, because most people, especially in the world that we're in today, these make it worse, these phones, because we get distracted so easily. We get off track so easily, and we so easily and so quickly will change from doing one thing to doing another thing because we're not willing to stick to the program, whatever the program happens to be. So you have to be willing to stay on whatever your thing happens to be and stick to it. And many people are not willing to stick to the thing that they're doing. So you got to be willing to stick to your thing, be consistent at your game, whatever it happens to be. Number 3, we're talking about how to unconventionally stand out from the crowd is look around at what everybody else is doing and do the opposite. Whatever you see everybody else doing, do the opposite of that. Or just completely ignore what everybody else is doing. Why is this? Because most people, by definition, are average. Most people are average because what the masses of people do is usually what gets them in the middle. All right, there's a bell curve in life. There's a few people at the bottom, there's a whole bunch of people in the middle, and there's a few people at the top. Most people do what the people in the middle do. All right, about 90% of people in the middle, you got about 5% at the top, you got 5% at the bottom. If you don't want to be average and caught in the middle, notice what the average people do and don't do that. Earl Nightingale said this in Lead the Field. Look around at what everybody else is doing, do the opposite of that. You want to stand out in any group. If you don't know what to do, look around, see what everybody else is doing, and say, all right, I know exactly what not to do. All right, I'm not going to do what they're doing. All right, that's the easiest way to make yourself stand out in anything that you do in life. So look around, notice the commonalities amongst the average people, and don't do that. I can tell you some common things, whatever line of work that you're in. Most of the people who you work with or your peers in your same line of work, most of them are lazy. They don't want to master and stick to the fundamentals because it's too boring for them. They're easily attracted by the new, bright, shiny object, whatever it is. They're all looking for shortcuts and quick fixes to success without doing the work. They all think there's some deep, dark secret to being successful that somebody's hiding from them. They're unwilling to put in the time because they think putting in the time is tedious, is boring. And if you want to stand out, all you got to do is the opposite of them. If you just do that alone, you will be more successful in the aggregate. Now, sometimes if you do the opposite of the crowd, maybe the crowd sometimes is right. I mean, even the broken clock is right at least 2 times a day, right? But if overall you just use that as a principle, I'm gonna look around what everybody else is doing and not do that, I guarantee you in the long run, you will end up more successful than most people, because most people simply follow the crowd, and that's why most people are average. So just ask yourself, who do you want to be? Where do you want to be? Where do you want to be in your life? Where do you want to be in your career? Where do you want to be success-wise in whatever it is that you're doing? And do these things, you will be successful. So let me recap these 3 things that I just told you. If you want to stand out from the crowd in anything that you do in life, simple 3 things that you need to do. Number 1, master the basics and the fundamentals. So find out what these are. If you are new in your career or new in your job, you know the basics and the fundamentals of what you do. I'm in sales. I'm an entrepreneur. So I am, by default, I'm in the sales world. It doesn't even matter what I'm selling. But in sales, it's basically 4 simple steps. Number 1, I got to identify a need in the marketplace. Number 2, I need to create or get access to the solution to that need. Number 3, I got to let people know that I have the solution. Number 4, I got to get people to exchange their money for my solution. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the basics and the fundamentals of what I do. We can call that market research, procurement, marketing, and sales. I need to master those 4 things. And most of the things that I'm reading or listening to or watching or I invest in, I just bought a ticket to a conference today. It's a $1,000 ticket. The reason I bought the ticket is because I'm going to learn more about marketing and selling. I'm going to learn more about how to reach my audience. Why? Because that's the business that I'm in. I got to know the fundamentals of my business. So whatever business you're in, go talk to somebody who is more successful than you, who has been in the game longer than you in that same business, and ask them, hey, what are the basics of this business? What are the fundamentals that I need to know? Whatever they tell you, you need to go study it. If you work at a job, they should have a handbook. They should have training materials that tell you, oh, go through these materials so you know how to do your job. You should be reading those materials like every day. You should memorize that stuff. You should know everything about it if you want to be great at what you do. So number 1, master the basics and the fundamentals. Number 2, be consistent. Whatever your process is that you need to be good at, be consistent at it. Set a structure so that you can do it over and over and over again without fail. And number 3, look around at what all the average people are doing. It won't be hard to find average people because they're everywhere. Look around at what they're doing and do the opposite of that. That is how you stand out. Anybody got a question, put it in the comment section. I'll address it right now. I'll take a minute to address a couple questions. And those of you who are new around here or you didn't know, any of you want to work with me directly, you want to get access to my courses and all my best trainings, the way you do it is by joining Work on Your Game University. That's the only place that I offer any kind of coaching. That's where my coaching program is. That is where all my courses are. That's where all my best training is. Again, it's called Work on Your Game University. The link is right there at the bottom of this, at the bottom of the comment section, is workonyourgameuniversity.com. Question is, how do you stand out on LinkedIn and Indeed? Well, what are the basics? What are you trying to stand out and do? Big body, what are you trying to do? What's the goal? Because see, the standing out is based on what the outcome is. Tell me what the outcome is. And any of you want to get my daily motivation text, I send that text message out, a text message straight to your phone, free of charge every single day. You want to get that message, guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point. All you got to do is text me at my number. Here's my text community right here. So I'm showing you all these texts that I got that people have sent me. My number is 305-384-6894. You want to get my daily motivation text, just text me at that number that I just put in the comment section, and you'll be getting that text every single day. So you can see all these texts that I got here to go through. And I do actually go through and read text messages, and I do respond to people's texts. So hit me at that number, and it's free of charge. Every morning when I send out the daily motivation text, the next one will go out tomorrow morning. You'll be getting that text completely for free. Just text me at that number you see there in the comment section. So as far as standing out, it depends on what your goal is. If you don't know what your outcome is, then it doesn't. So this is a framework. Anytime you're trying to do something, you got to know why you're trying to do it. So that's a basic fundamental for you right there. All right, everybody. So y'all can hit me in the DM or send me a text if you got any questions or anything that I didn't address here. I'll be trying to be doing these lives on a regular basis. We'll see what we can figure out schedule-wise. I'll be looking around, figuring it out. Everybody work on your game. Dre all day.